Someone who will always be there. How often have you been through those times where it seemed as though you just lost your best and possibly only friend? Maybe you were experiencing a really difficult time in life. You needed someone who would be there for you, and yet no one seemed to care. Jesus warned his disciples that they would abandon him in a very critical hour. John 16:32, he said, "Look, an hour is coming and has come when each of you will be scattered to his own home and you will leave me alone." And it wasn't long before that moment came. The evening before he was crucified, Jesus and his disciples were praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. As the temple guard and the soldiers approached Jesus to arrest him, Mark tells us in chapter 14, verse 50, all his disciples deserted him and ran away. A short time later, Jesus found himself in the midst of the deepest, darkest moment he had ever been forced to endure. He was under intense questioning by Pilate while being openly ridiculed and reviled by the Jewish leaders and suffering extreme torment and torture at the hands of the Roman soldiers. And as the intensity of the situation heightened, Luke tells us that Peter denied he even knew who Jesus was. Luke records in Luke 22:61 that as the cock crowed a third time, the Lord turned and he looked at Peter. And Peter remembered the word of the Lord, how he had said to him, "Before the rooster crows today, you will deny me 3 times." Can you imagine the loneliness Jesus had to be experiencing at that moment? We've all been through our times of loneliness, which led to bouts of despair. Those times when you couldn't find a shoulder to lean on, arms to cry in, a friend to share with. Abandonment was all you could feel. The writer of the Proverbs in Proverbs 18:24 tells us there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. That friend is someone who promises in Hebrews 13:5 that he will never leave you nor forsake you. He is someone who will be right there for you and with you, no matter how difficult the trials and the tribulations may be or may even become. Peter in 1 Peter 5:7 encourages us by telling us to give all our worries and cares over to God, for he cares about us. Regardless of the loneliness you may be experiencing, the difficulties your life may be putting you through, the total abandonment you are feeling from your closest friends and your family members, remember, Jesus is someone who will always be there for you. He sticks closer than the closest brother. He will never leave you, abandon you, or forsake you. You simply trust him to always be there for you, to step in and to carry you through the difficulties and the problems of your often hectic life. Psalm 65 tells us, "Praise is rightfully yours, God, in Zion. Vows to you will be fulfilled. All humanity will come to you, the one who hears prayer. Iniquities overwhelm me. Only you can atone for our rebellions. How happy is the one you choose and bring near to live in your courts. We will be satisfied with the goodness of your house, the holiness of your temple. You answer us in righteousness with awe-inspiring works. God of our salvation, the hope of all the ends of the earth and of the distant seas, you establish the mountains by your power, robed with strength. You silence the roar of the seas, the roar of their waves, and the tumult of the nations. Those who live far away are awed by your signs. You make east and west shout for joy. You visit the earth and water it abundantly, enriching it greatly. God's stream is filled with water, for you prepare the earth in this way, providing people with grain. You soften it with showers and bless its growth, soaking its furrows and leveling its ridges. You crown the year with your goodness. Your ways overflow with plenty. The wilderness pastures overflow, and the hills are robed with joy. The pastures are clothed with flocks and the valleys covered with grain. They shout in triumph. Indeed, they sing. Wow, what an awesome word. What a tremendous blessing that brings to our heart and soul to know that God is ultimately in control of all things. Maybe you need to pray today. Maybe you need to ask God to help you. A prayer would go something like this: Father in heaven, help me to learn to place my trust in you in every situation I face. Help me to recognize you as the source of my help, of my hope, and of my dependence. Help me to not be discouraged when those around me fail to be there for me when I need them most. Also, Lord, please help me to be strong for others when they need someone to talk to lean on, to trust in. Father, I thank you for your love, your protection, your guidance, and your direction in my life. Thank you for always being there for me. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. You need someone who will always be there for you. And that someone is Jesus Christ today. You need to place your trust in him. You need to trust him with your heart, with your mind, with your soul, with your whole being, and know that he will never leave you. He will never forsake you. He will always be there for you. Trust him today. God bless you in Jesus' name.